Yamato and Sai were the two new characters introduced in the second arc of Naruto Shippuden, the Tenchi Bridge Arc. Obviously, they would have big shoes to fill because Yamato is supposed to replace Kakashi while Sai is supposed to replace Sasuke. So the bar to clear is already very high, and nobody was really expecting both those characters to be better than Kakashi and Sasuke, but the thing is, they failed completely. Yamato and Sai are forgettable characters that essentially don't add up to anything in the story in the long run. So in this video we're going to be analyzing why Yamato and Sai, those two characters that were introduced pretty much together, didn't work in the Naruto story. Now the idea that there should have been a replacement for Kakashi and Sasuke in Team 7 is not something outrageous. After all, Sasuke was obviously out of the team, so somebody should probably fill in the position. But Kakashi is different because technically there was no need for Kakashi to stay out of the story. Yes, obviously Kakashi was really tired because he used his Kamui for the first time in the Kazekage rescue arc, and therefore he was bedridden, but you could have easily written something around that. The mission to go and find Sasuke in the Tenchi Bridge could have been set a month after the Kazekage rescue arc. This wouldn't have been a great problem. Kishimoto obviously wanted to keep Kakashi away from Sasuke in this particular arc, and he wanted to wait for Sasuke and Kakashi to meet later in the series. Unfortunately, when Kakashi and Sasuke finally met again in Naruto Shippuden, their reunion was actually really damn lackluster and their fight was boring as hell, but I've made an entire video about this already. Kishimoto comes up with his new character to stay in Kakashi's position, at least for this arc, and obviously he's gonna continue in the story after it, and he's a very different person from Kakashi. So let's take a look at Yamato before we take a look at Sai, because Yamato is actually easier to analyze. Yamato's mechanical function in the story is to be the person who will contain the Nine Tails' chakra when Naruto goes ballistic. And that's going to be important because if Kishimoto wants to ramp up the threats of the Nine Tails taking over, he has to increase the amount of chakra that's going to leak out. And yeah, it wouldn't make that much sense for Kakashi to be able to just put a ceiling tag on Naruto's head and the chakra goes out when he's extremely OP. Yes, that worked when Naruto had two tails, but if we want Naruto to feel absolutely terrifying when the Nine Tails takes over, things will have to look more dangerous than, oh, I mean, Kakashi can just put a paper on him and he'll be fine. So Kishimoto comes up with this character that has wood style because he has Hashirama cells, and because he has wood style and the powers of the first Hokage, he's able to tap into Tsunari's necklace and suppress the chakra even though it's a lot. Now this is good. As I said, if you want Naruto to feel terrifying, you have to make it feel as though, okay, when he goes four tails, for example, which happens in this arc, there's a big chance things will go wrong and it's going to be very difficult to suppress him. Because let's be real for a second, when Naruto went two tails in the fight against Itadori in the Kazekage rescue arc, it was pretty lackluster because Kakashi just kind of stepped in front of him, put him a paper tag, and it was done. Nothing major happened, really. Naruto didn't go crazy anymore, and that's it. So now there's an entire character whose purpose is to suppress that chakra when it gets too dangerous, which makes things more interesting. The connection Kishimoto makes between Yamato and Orochimaru is also interesting, because Orochimaru is obviously going to be a prevalent villain in this arc, Orochimaru being the person who pretty much created Yamato by implanting Hashirama cells when Yamato was just a little kid during those evil experiments. And that's another very cool concept because, yeah, Orochimaru is this despicable person, and we've seen people he experimented on, but this time it feels much more personal and malicious. Yamato was a kid. I mean, sure, Anko got the curse mark, Sasuke also got the curse mark, and several other people that we know, but this just seems more perverse. And implanting Hashirama cells on kids, and several of the kids died because they couldn't resist the power of the cells. Yamato was the only one to survive, so that connection was pretty good. Also, the fact that he had wood style and we didn't know exactly why or how, because this is supposed to be the power of the first Hokage, was a mystery that we learn about along the arc, which is something good because, yeah, when there's some mystery in the particular arc, you're going to be interesting to see the ending and the story is going to be more exciting. And you can say the same thing about Sai's backstory as well, but we're going to get into that later. Unfortunately, the good things about Yamato kind of stop here. Yes, the concept for the character is good, the relationship with Orochimaru is fine, but the character himself is completely flat and boring. Yamato simply lacks an interesting personality or charisma. If you take a look at any of the other senseis in the Leaf Village, every single one of them is cool in their own way. I mean, Kakashi, extremely interesting and cool character. Guy, very charismatic and also very interesting character. Asuma, pretty damn cool, everybody's sad when he dies. And Kurenai, I guess you could say she's the least least interesting one among them, but it's because she has so little screen time, we barely even see her. But when she's on screen, she is pretty interesting. Yamato, on the other hand, every time he is on screen, it feels as though it's the person going through the motions, just a very generic teacher/captain character that's going to command the protagonist and his friends, and he's not really going to do anything special at all, which is exactly what happens. He does just what you kind of expect a teacher to do. He doesn't have any great moments in the arc. He doesn't do anything very interesting. The best moment you could say Yamato gets is when he seals the 9 tails' chakra after Naruto goes 4 tails, and that's pretty much it. It wasn't even that climactic anyways, because the fight before was much more interesting. And yeah, Yamato coordinates some strategies here and there, but it's nothing really special at all. And it's not like he has an interesting personality quirk or something cool about him. Maybe he could have been a darker character hinting at his past. Maybe he could have been a very arrogant character because he has wood style, and so he feels he's more powerful than his peers, especially Genins like Naruto. But no, he's just absolutely boring. Even his wood style jutsus are boring. I mean, sure, he obviously can't be as powerful as Hashirama was, but Hashirama's jutsu looked cool back in part 1 when he was fighting Hiruzen as Neto Tensei. Yamato's jutsus, they look like he's just creating some furniture and attacking people with it. It's boring and ugly to look at even. Yamato is used as setup for Senju Hashirama because we are going to eventually see that Hashirama was able to tame the 9 tails with his wood style in his fight against Madara, and also every other tail beast. So it's good to see the wood style working that way here, suppressing tail beast chakra, one of the primary functions that Hashirama is going to have later on. And we also see the connection between Hashirama's wood style with the necklace Tsunade gave to Naruto, because Yamato has to touch the necklace so that he can suppress the 9 tails' chakra. Then again, this is not absolutely necessary foreshadowing, because people even mention in universe that Hashirama was capable of doing so. Seeing Yamato using the wood style suppression here is interesting, and it builds upon that aspect of the universe, but it's not absolutely necessary by any means. If you wanted to keep Kakashi on the team, for example, you could have just given Kakashi a jutsu that also suppresses chakra, and everybody would buy that. After all, Kakashi's copied 1,000 jutsus over his ninja career. One of those jutsus is probably gonna be something that suppresses chakra, am I right? I don't even like the paper thing that Kakashi uses to suppress the 2 tails, because Jiraiya just gives him a paper that's never really used again in the verse, and that paper could have been very useful. Like, imagine you using that against your enemy, suppressing some type of jutsu. What if you put that paper on the Raikage's lighting armor, for example? Would that work? Would that suppress the Raikage's chakra? I don't know. But it would have been much more interesting if Kakashi just had a sealing jutsu that could suppress chakra that he could have used on the 2 tails there, and not the paper. And if you wanted Kakashi to be in this arc, you could have just made the jutsu more powerful. Maybe Kakashi trains that jutsu between the Kazekage Rescue arc and the Tenchi Bridge arc. And the worst part about Yamato in this arc is that he doesn't have a character arc, which is arguably the most important thing for a character. I mean, yes, you can do a character that doesn't really have an arc. Let's call a flat arc where the character doesn't really need to improve anymore. He has to improve the world around him. But that's not really what Yamato does. He's just going through the motions, as I said before. And because the character doesn't have an arc, he doesn't learn anything new about himself. He doesn't improve as a person. He doesn't find something revealing about his inner demons. The character feels pointless and boring. And this is kind of weird, because even when a character is kind of minor, if he has a presence in a particular arc, Kishimoto usually gives the character an arc, even if it's a very small one. Take a look at characters like Zaku and Dosu in the Chunin exams, for example. They were very minor characters with not a lot of screen time, and still they had a character arc. Yamato is a much more major character, especially in this arc where there aren't as many characters as they were in the Chunin exams, and still he doesn't change at all. He doesn't go through anything he learns. It's just a flat line of a character, which is the main reason he feels so damn boring. The only interesting thing about Yamato is the plot twist that, oh, he was actually in the Orochimaru experiment, but it's not as though this makes the character extremely compelling all of a sudden, because Yamato, the character, already knew he was in the Orochimaru experiment, so it wasn't something that changed the character's outlook in life. It would have been much more interesting if Yamato found out about his own past as he was doing the mission there, when the Orochimaru said, oh, you were one of the experiments and you survived, that's pretty crazy, and Yamato's like, what? I was in the Orochimaru experiment, bro, that's crazy! I mean, something along those lines, but obviously he already knew that, so the impact of the scene is null. He doesn't even react seeing the Orochimaru again, like, it's just another Tuesday, like, yeah, sure, Orochimaru Orochimaru's here, whatever. And after the Tenchi Bridge arc, he remains an arc-less character that does a couple of jokes here and there. Some of them are kind of funny, but it's not enough to make a character interesting or compelling. Sure, he helps Naruto to train the Rasen Shuriken, but Naruto never goes four tails when he's training for the Rasen Shuriken, so Kakashi putting a ceiling tag on his forehead would have been more than enough to suppress his chakra anyway, so Yamato was kind of a surplus in that situation. He wasn't exactly necessary. Also, everything Yamato teaches to Naruto about the elements, Kakashi could teach him as well, so like, yeah, Yamato is completely unnecessary for the story. He barely even participates in the fight against Kakuzu. He loses like 2 jutsus, and that's it. I mean, he doesn't do much. And then in the Pain arc, he's out of the village. He goes back and he says, "Oh, that's good, Naruto. You managed to contain the Nine Tails' chakra by yourself." It was actually Minato, but whatever. And then Yamato follows Naruto to the Turtle Island so that Naruto can learn from somebody else more competent than Yamato himself. And then he gets captured by Kabuto. The character is so useless that he just disappears in the final arc of the series and is used as a plot device to make the White Zetsu army stronger. But nobody cared about Yamato being captured at all. Because yeah, once Naruto masters the chakra of the Nine Tails, Yamato's whole existence is rendered meaningless now because you no longer need Yamato to suppress the Nine Tails' chakra. So yeah, let me capture Yamato here because Kishimoto didn't really want to use him during the arc because he's not an interesting character and he didn't want to occupy page time with Yamato at all. So this character who's introduced as Kakashi's replacement, who's supposed to be quite an important figure, is pretty damn useless throughout the entire series. A very boring character that doesn't amount to anything and has less charisma than well-done steak. But he's not the only character that's not very good and that's also introduced in the Tenchi Bridge arc. The second character is going to be Sai, Danzo's spy in Team 7. Now, the entire concept of the Root Anbu is interesting and Danzo's a phenomenal character. However, the problem with them is that they were introduced too late in the series. They should have been introduced back in Naruto Part 1, but obviously Kishimoto only had the idea after the time skip, so like there's nothing he could do about it. I mean, I guess he could have just not really done the Root Anbu and Danzo, but I still like what happened with Danzo and the Root Anbu in story, but whatever. Now, I myself am not a fan of that type of character. The character with no personality that has to learn emotions because he's been wiped out of him when he was a kid and whatever. But I understand some people like that, and it's a serviceable arc for a character. I'm not gonna say Sai is a terrible character by default just because he doesn't really align with my taste for storytelling. Sai's inclusion in the Tenchi Bridge arc does several things for the arc itself. It keeps more mystery inserted into the arc because, oh, what's the deal with Sai's notebook? Oh, what's his real mission? We find out in the end that Danzo gave him the mission to assassinate Sasuke. So Sai was pretty much a wild card in the entire arc. He was flip-flopping between the Leaf Village and Orochimaru. He infiltrated Orochimaru's hideout by saying he was actually an ally. This makes the Root Anbu seem more like a formidable threat and an organization that's actually taking care of things through the shadows. But one thing that Sai gets and Yamato doesn't is a character arc, which already makes him a much more interesting character than Yamato in the Tenchi Bridge arc itself. Sai's art book, where he was killing every single enemy he came across on one side of the book and his brother was doing the same thing on the other side of the book, and they were moving towards the middle of the book, and the implication was that, oh, they're gonna have to kill each other when they get there, which is pretty much the ritual of the Root Anbu, was kind of interesting. But then when Sai goes through his character arc and he learns some emotions, he learns that people care about each other, and he learns that people create bonds with each other when he sees Naruto and his determination to go and save Sasuke, his friend, Sai remembers what he was going to draw in the middle of the book, and he draws himself and his brother doing a handshake as they were friends. Now, this is a fine arc, it's just that the moment Sai decides to actually go and help Naruto is kind of underwhelming. I mean, Sai tries to capture Sasuke doesn't let that happen, and he's just like, I saw what Naruto can do, and I mean, I guess I'll help him as well. It's not very impactful at all. It is one of the talk no jutsus Naruto uses during the series, and it's one of the weakest ones. And yes, there is a lot of animosity between Naruto and Sai during the arc because Naruto just can't understand a person with no emotions, and he's also very immature, so there was a lot of conflict in there, but it was tiresome, if I'm being honest. Naruto constantly hating on Sai and Sai always acting the same was a little obnoxious, even though Sai's jokes about Naruto's size were very funny. They were much funnier than Yamato's jokes ever were. Sai also doesn't get any major, epic, or grandiose moments in this arc anyway. The most impactful moment for Sai as a character should have been when he decided to go and actually help Naruto, disobeying the orders from the Root, Anbu, and Danzo, trying to help Naruto and get Sasuke back instead of killing him. But as I said before, this moment falls really flat. And other than that, Sai only serves to keep some mystery in the arc and to make the audience guess, oh, is it gonna be a good guy or a bad guy in the end? And sure, when you first read or watch the arc, this can be very entertaining to see, but it doesn't really do well for the rewatchability of the arc. And then Sai becomes a quote-unquote regular member of Team Kakashi, which doesn't even feel like it, because Sai doesn't do anything else in the entire series pretty much, just like Yamato. He just kind of observes Naruto train the Rasen Shuriken, he just follows Naruto into the battlefield against Kakuzu and doesn't do anything whatsoever. He goes to the Itachi Pursuit mission just like Yamato did, but they are pretty much worthless because they didn't do anything at all, and he's not present for the Pain Invasion. He does get a character moment in the 5 Kage Summit arc when Karoi is spanking Naruto real good because Naruto wants to make her forgive Sasuke by punching him instead, taking Sasuke's pains for himself. Sai sees that and stops Karoi from beating Naruto, and that's Sai's character moment there. I mean, I guess you could say Sai is learning emotions and everything because he saw Naruto getting beaten up and he stood up for Naruto, something that a person with no emotions wouldn't do, but that's it. And let me remind you that the 5 Kage Summit arc was the arc where Danzo died, the leader of the Root Anbu. And we don't even see Danzo interacting with Sai in a great capacity in this arc. I mean, they do exchange a couple of lines, but that's a lot of wasted potential. Now, Sai's arc is concluded in the war arc when he fights against his brother as an Edo Tensei, and he's able to show his brother the finalized drawing of his book. His brother sees that, oh, he finished us, we are shaking hands in the middle of the book, and then his brother's soul is released. Which I suppose is a fine way to end the character's arc. To be honest, Sai got an ending to his character arc, something that several characters didn't get in the war arc, which is extremely disappointing, but you know, Sai was one of those that got it. Rock Lee didn't get an ending for his character arc in the war arc, but Sai feels completely unimpactful. And then when Sasuke shows back up, he's like, oh, but I am part of Team 7 as well. Shut up, man. You're not. It's just kind of embarrassing. Now, unlike Yamato, had absolutely no potential from the get-go because the character was set up with no arc for him to go through, Sai had an arc which he started to go through in the Tenchi Bridge Arc and could have been actually kind of interesting if Kishimoto decided to develop the character more, but he just doesn't get screen time. And there's another big problem with both Sai and Yamato, and the reason why many people even forget they exist in the story, which is that none of these two characters have a fight in the Naruto series where they are the protagonist. Naruto is a battle shonen. Battle shonen series develop the characters during fights. This is the entire premise behind the genre, and Yamato and Sai do not have such fights. Every time they actually fight in the story, they are overshadowed by somebody else who actually is the protagonist of said fights. Usually it's Naruto in their cases. But even in Sai's moments of completion of his character arc, when he sees his brother again and his brother gets released from the Edo Tensei because he sees his drawing, he's pretty much sharing the battlefield with a dozen other characters in that massive squad, so that certainly doesn't feel as important or impactful because of it. And Yamato is even worse. I mean, he doesn't even have anything resembling a fight where he is the protagonist in the entire series. I guess the only time in the entire story where you could say the spotlight was on Yamato was when he disguised himself as Sasori and went to meet Kabuto in the Tenchi Bridge. And yes, technically Sai still has moments after his final arc in the series when his brother is released from the Edo Tensei. He still fights against several ninja swordsmen, he still fights against the Tenteo's little clones, he gets kicked by Madara, but everything he does after that point is pretty much useless because the character's already done. You might as well kill Sai after that, because he's not gonna be important in the story anymore. Or do something like what Kishimoto did to Yamato, just kidnap him away from the story, and you don't even mention him, or like, you only see, oh, so Spiral Zetsu actually dominated Yamato's body. I actually like that decision by Kishimoto because I didn't really want to see Yamato anymore. He's not interesting at all. Same thing applies to Sai, even though he doesn't appear very much. But Sai had much more potential. If Kishimoto had given Sai an interesting fight in the series, maybe he could have become an interesting character. It would have been much more interesting if Kishimoto had given more screen time to other characters from the Konoha 12 in the Tenchi Bridge arc, or maybe another character. For instance, imagine how much more interesting it would have been if Anko was the squad leader in the Tenchi Bridge arc, replacing Kakashi because she was Orochimaru's pupil, a much deeper connection than Yamato had with Orochimaru, and Anko and Orochimaru had already had had an altercation back in Naruto Part 1 where Anko actually got a lot of spotlight in the series. And then to replace Sasuke, you just literally pick anybody else from the Konoha 12 and it would have been more interesting than Sai. Because we actually care about those characters. I mean, we don't care about Tenten, but we care about the other ones. Rock Lee and Neji were pretty much forgotten during the entire Naruto Shippuden era, which is a crime. The only character from the Konoha 12, except for Team 7, that got satisfactory development in Naruto Shippuden was Shikamaru. He's the only one who got a good amount of spotlight in the series, which is kinda crazy. So if somebody else from the Konoha 12 had gone to the mission in the Tenchi Bridge, it would have been much better than having Sai, and even more so when it comes to Yamato. Chiyo filled in the 4th position of the team in the Kazekage rescue mission, which is fine, she did that perfectly. I think Chiyo's my favorite female character in the Naruto series, but obviously she couldn't remain on the team. First because she died, but second because she's definitely made to be a one-off character. She's not supposed to stick around the main character. But then you can also argue that Team Kakashi only had 3 members going to the Sen village in the Kazekage rescue arc. So, oh, it's very convenient, right, Kishimoto? The team has 3 people and the 4th one just happens to join the team during the mission. I guess you can say it's convenient, but then again, Team Kakashi wasn't even supposed to go to the Sen village to rescue the Kazekage. They were actually gonna get a much easier mission because there was gonna be Naruto's first mission back from his break, and it just so happened that Tsunade got the message that the Kazekage was kidnapped when she was giving them the mission. And because they were supposed to go on an easier mission, it's easy to assume that Tsunade didn't assign a 4th ninja to the squad because it wasn't necessary, and she wasn't sure who would be the best fit. So everything works out in the Kazekage rescue arc. The problem is that in the Tenchi Bridge arc, they get Sai, which doesn't work as well. Kishimoto's plan to introduce 2 more major characters into the series in Yamato and Sai was a complete failure. Subscribe if you haven't already, like the video to help me with the YouTube algorithm, and watch this other cool Naruto video right here. Come on, do those things, it's really fast, it really helps me out. Thanks for watching.